The civil rights movement is another social issue that happened during this period. A growing group of Americans spoke out against inequality and injustice during the 1950s. African Americans had been fighting against racial discrimination for centuries. During the 1950s, however, the struggle against racism and segregation entered the mainstream of American life. The Black Civil Rights Movement campaigned to end racism and inequality for Black people between 1955 and 1968. Before the CRM, or the Civil Rights Movement, many towns and cities in America were segregated. Black people could not use the same building entrance as a white person or eat in the same cafe, nor could they sit in the same taxi or use the same drinking fountain. Not only that, the police, judges, and juries were all white, and the laws supported these inequalities. Civil rights groups demanded an end to segregation. They fought for equality in education, housing, and employment opportunities, and they made some headway. White-collar and professional sector jobs began to open up for African Americans, as shown by the photograph of commercial artist Barry Weeks working at his draft board in 1960. But not all white Americans welcomed change. Most civil rights protests of this time were peaceful, as illustrated by two photographs taken in San Francisco in 1963. Picketers protesting unfair hiring practices at Mel's Diner and a march for civil rights on Market Street. Civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy, pictured here, advocated these nonviolent protests. But others, such as Black Muslim leader Malcolm X, were less patient with the process, foreshadowing the harder-edged protests to come.